did tilt badly. Hardly appropriate for a wizard's tower. The interior was a mixture of light and dark, mounds of furniture hidden beneath dust-covered sheets. A sudden shadow darted in the murk. Aelis threw down her burdens, whipped her leaf-bladed sword clear of its sheath, and was halfway into a personal all-purpose ward when a small goat pranced up to her, yelled at her for disturbing it, and went clattering out the front door. Not before treading on her bag of books and leaving a fragrant trail of piss right down the front steps, though. Carefully, very carefully, Aelis lowered her sword till it touched the ground before her, and spoke a 2-word dispelling, just enough to make sure the spell she'd gathered discharged harmlessly. The goat, standing a few feet outside the open door, turned back to stare at her. "I'm going to have you for dinner," Aelis said, pointing the tip of her sword at it before sheathing it with care. "And I'm going to wear your hide when it gets cold." The goat yelled again, an ugly and grating sound, and trotted off, unconcerned with her threats. "As if I'd ever wear goatskin," Aelis murmured, as she bent to pick up the dropped books and case. It took her till near nightfall, and many a curse and a fervent wish that she could whip up an undead servitor or two. Just one would have gone a long way. But Aelis got her gear unpacked, or at least stowed carefully, and one of the 2 rooms in the bottom floor of the tower swept and washed. She was leery of the rotting ladder leading up to the 2nd floor, not to mention the suspicious-looking buckles in the boards that she could see a foot or so above her head. There had been nothing usable in the tower, save the niches built into the walls, where she'd assembled her library, reasoning that unpacking books would make a new place feel more like home. It wasn't a large collection, no more than 24 volumes. Aelis wished she'd had room for more, but the post carriage had strict limits, and more space simply could not be had, at any price. She did take some satisfaction in how well lit the place was, as she'd set out candlesticks in silver holders, carved with her family arms, 3 lamps with carefully trimmed wicks, and her alchemy lamp, set to a soft white. A nagging voice suggested to her that replacing any of these valuable supplies would be difficult, but Aelis convinced herself that for one night it was necessary. She certainly wasn't frightened of the dark gathering outside her tower, though night was coming on faster this far north than it would have at midsummer at home. Aelis's mind flashed with images at the thought of the word home. People in light summer silk and linen, entire townhouses lit by alchemy lamps, each room a different brilliant color. Iced wine, squid and prawns pulled fresh from the sea and barely tossed in a pan, then salted and doused with citron juice. Aelis sat up from the folding chair she'd assembled and realized that her stomach was growling. She surveyed what she'd unpacked, as if food would turn up. "If it's going to," she said to no one in particular, "I'd prefer something light. Perhaps a selection of cheeses. 1 blue, 1 creme, 1 hard and ripe, and some pickled fish." Nothing replied to her request, and Aelis sighed and stood. She picked up her sword belt from its place at her chair, buckled it back on, and started for the door. "I thought it was always cold up here. Nobody told me I'd sweat. I'll have to send for lighter clothing," she muttered, before sighing. "Send where? How? I've no birds, no mirror, and if I sent a letter ordering one, by the time any new robe reached me, it would be fall." She considered the wardrobe she'd brought, mostly black, accented with blue and green. All but her most formal robes were divided for riding and cut carefully for her to make use of her sword, dagger, or wand as necessary. She'd sent home gowns and formal dresses, as well as anything that had too much thread of gold and silver and gemstones worked into it. Aelis sighed and slumped back into her chair. Her hunger hadn't abated, but something about the thought of trudging all the way back to the village